This is the ultimate mastery of a Liao girl. With just a few choice words, she effortlessly captivated this blonde bombshell. The man who deeply understands Liao girls is none other than Jimmy. From elderly white-haired ladies to vibrant and youthful teenage girls, it's rare to find anyone who can resist the charm and allure of his strikingly handsome appearance. She is a pharmaceutical representative, causing trouble for nurses at each hospital visit. On this day, Jimmy, using his long-term connections, joined as a fake intern to promote medication. It was then that Annie came for consultation. Though Jimmy had seen many beautiful women, Annie was exceptionally stunning. The doctor asked Annie to undress for examination. Jimmy knew she should step aside, yet couldn't divert her gaze. As Annie undressed, Jimmy sneaked cautious glances. Annie immediately recognized Jimmy as a pretend intern, familiar with pharmaceutical reps due to her ex-boyfriend. Post-breakup, she was critical of drug reps. Instead of getting angry, Annie invited Jimmy for coffee. How curious. Jimmy had a way of sparking intrigue, making people subconsciously drawn to her. Who wouldn't aspire to such charm? Archery was destined to happen, but Annie wasn't inexperienced. She saw right through Jimmy's schemes, leaving him with a disdainful look and a bold gesture. Despite this, Jimmy was intrigued, never having encountered such a captivating woman. Leveraging his hospital connections, he acquired Annie's number and eagerly contacted her right away. I take work seriously. Annie, knowing the risks of refusal, agreed to meet Jimmy at a cafe at 5. Despite preparing lines, Jimmy was captivated by Annie's eyes, forgetting everything. He noticed her trembling fingers, which she quickly hid. They held hands instantly. Despite Annie's calm, Jimmy matched her strength. They quickly bonded, talking endlessly. They agreed to discuss emotions but avoid romantic love, as Annie warned she'd end it otherwise. The odd request masked Annie's embarrassment about Parkinson's. Her past relationships crumbled as her symptoms worsened, leaving Annie wary of love. She sought love only to boost her mood, aware of her intentions. Love is a consumable, and he no longer has the courage to fall in love with others. But Jimmy was serious. He would feel affectionate when he received a date invitation from Annie after work, and would feel relaxed having dinner with her. He would even call Annie when drunk, simply because he wanted to hear more of her voice. As a playboy whose main business was being a player, Jimmy had never experienced such a fluttering of the heart. Realizing this, Annie, whose Parkinson's was getting worse, and who couldn't even tear open a plastic bag due to her trembling strength, suggested a breakup during their last dose of exhaustion together. She didn't want to go through the feelings of past breakups again. Better to initiate the breakup herself, rather than be betrayed by the time-consuming efforts he might make. Faced with Annie wanting to end things, Jimmy said little, leaving Annie alone and sorrowful. Disheartened with men, Annie boarded a bus leaving the city the next day to alleviate her mood. However, at that moment, Jimmy did not look for her the previous day, for her departure was to fulfill her agreement with Annie. She had the right to break up at any time, so she did not misunderstand too much. But now, Jimmy hopes Annie can give him a chance to pursue her again. But Annie doesn't believe that any playboy would give up everything for someone with Parkinson's. On the day Annie returned home, Jimmy arrived at the location early, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. But that beautiful figure did not appear. A few days later, Annie returned from Canada, and as soon as she got off the train, she saw that familiar silhouette. Jimmy was leaning against his car, looking at her with tired eyes. To avoid missing the chance to meet Annie, he drove his car over with a sense of determination, just to tell the girl he loves that he's serious. His eyes were full of sincerity. It was at this moment Annie realized this man seemed different from anyone before. So Annie, her heart as resilient as ever, agreed to an arrangement of talking without professing love, while at the same time creating a new love treaty. Jamie eats while talking on the phone. Annie lies quietly beside him, watching his every move with eyes filled with tenderness. The camcorder recorded all their joyful moments together. The power of love is amazing. Jimmy's career is flourishing, and they traded their little old car for a brand new factory-made ride. As warm as the sunlight is, that's how sweet love is. That night, Jimmy suddenly gasped and said to Annie, "I love you." "What?" "Oh yeah." Annie's heart raced and she couldn't breathe, taking in Jimmy's warm, dedicated affection. But things didn't last. Annie found life increasingly overwhelming, struggling with simple tasks. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't even open a pill bottle. These seemingly minor issues piled up until Annie completely lost control emotionally. "Randall, tell me, what's going on? Why is this happening to me?" He said a lot of scandalous things to Jimmy just to drive him away, as he didn't want to drag Jimmy's life down. As Annie used it, naturally Jimmy left, and Annie's mood also shattered like glass shards on the ground with his departure. Hearing Annie's heartbreaking cries, Jimmy couldn't bear it, and returned inside. Even though Annie vented all her life's misfortunes on him, Jimmy never thought of abandoning her. He just wanted to stay by her side and protect her. A few days later, they attended a Parkinson's patient support group, where Jimmy met a family member of a person with Parkinson's disease. Jimmy asked for advice on how to take care of Parkinson's patients, but the other person sincerely advised him to choose to escape early rather than look for solutions. But even so, Jimmy still took Annie to seek medical help nationwide, visiting hospitals large and small. After facing multiple tragedies, Jimmy ended up in a heated argument with the doctor. Annie, observing from the door, looked thoughtful. Her illness had already impacted Jimmy emotionally. Upon leaving the hospital, she brought up her analysis again. Her illness isn't curable, and frequent hospital visits are pointless. Jimmy's career is taking off, with a promotion to executive director on the horizon. To give Jimmy a stress-free life, she'd rather leave him. After expressing her feelings, Annie left without a glance back, believing it's the last thing she could offer him, her only gift to the kind man who gave her joy, ensuring she's not a burden. This marked their true breakup. Annie avoided Jimmy thereafter, neither taking calls nor being found. Jimmy's promotion sent him to Chicago as executive director, and at the celebration party, he saw Annie, accompanied by another man, possibly starting a new relationship. Words were abundant in their minds. This conversation felt novel-like, yet neither knew how to begin, leaving emotions flustered. Annie, just as hope surfaced, learned of his promotion and swiftly left, not wanting to stall his future. While packing the next day, Jimmy accidentally found a route from their past and watched their old footage. Jimmy realized his true feelings for Annie and knew if he missed her, he'd regret it for life. He drove along her travel route. Fortune smiled, and he found her. In 5 minutes, they relived their memories together,